Hello there, welcome. Lewis Nichols here. Today we're talking about nobility in Dungeons & Dragons. However, most of our discussion will pertain to pretty much any fantasy system. No big introductions, we're just going to hit some topics and try to keep it short. Now when I say nobility, I'm talking about a class at the top of the social ladder. They are usually in a position to ignore the legal system to some degree or another. They are usually going to be politically influential, though not necessarily completely in charge. I think the first thing you have to do is to consider that in any level-based environment, what's going to keep these guys in power? In a world where powerful heroes and villains exist, nobility is particularly vulnerable. If they're oppressive, heroes will seek to overturn their evil reign. Good or bad, super thieves will seek to relieve them of their fortunes. They might be the victims of kidnappings or possession. Basically, all the crimes you can think of, but perpetrated by superpower sneaks. Most nobility is not going to be heavily leveled. A lot of them are just going to be normal people. They're going to be rich and pampered, but otherwise normal. Guards can be pretty effective against threats up to, say, CR5, maybe just a little bit more depending upon your exact circumstances. But beyond that, there's only so much you can do. Personally, I'm currently using a system of divine right in my game. At least some of the campaign world nobles are protected directly by divine will. There have been several circumstances where someone threatening a noble is just poofed out of existence. In one case, an entire popular uprising vanished into thin air, only to come back as reborn a few weeks later. By no means do you have to go to that extreme. It may simply be that the nobles are protected by a strong legal system. There should be real ramifications to anyone who opposes them. So what are some of the other questions that we need to answer? Are they the government? My nobles elect a weak central authority. Very few take an active hand in large-scale leadership. However, you could certainly create a complex government where the nobility oversees a well-developed bureaucracy. You could even put a king on top and play a Game of Thrones campaign. I honestly don't see a monarchy holding up too well in a fantasy world, just because it's so easy to knock the guy off at the top, unless they are just overly powerful or protected, and I'm not really a fan of plot armor when I can avoid it. But that doesn't mean that you cannot have a meaningful class of nobility. Next big question. Do you have a feudal economy? You can obviously have nobility without monarchy or feudalism, but you should think things through a bit. Have you ever seen that movie Cowboys vs. Aliens? Harrison Ford plays a great example of a low-key noble in a non-monarchical society. He wields the power to get away with a lot of transgressions that would land a normal man in jail. That carries on to the developed world today. Very rich people do not follow the same rules as the rest of us. Now, can anyone become a noble? It's hard for me to conceive of a D&D style world where high-level characters can't become noble, no matter what their origins might have been. They just possess too much power to be denied. Once you say they can, it opens up a door for successful merchants and other business types to buy in. It's not unheard of. On Earth, moving into the nobility has rarely been impossible, though it might take a couple of generations of effort. Is nobility hereditary? I think the answer is almost always yes. It just kind of goes with terrain. If nothing else, grown children are going to have some control over their parents' money. There might be a mechanism to ostracize a noble. Perhaps there is a rapid drop-off in authority after the firstborn. Are the number of titles limited? A lot about being a noble is having that title. And you're going to have to figure out your own order of nobility. It changes a lot from century to century and from realm to realm. How many dukes can there be? What about barons? By the way, is land limited? If so, is owning land a mark of nobility at all? How widespread are noble lines? In Europe, royals were related from England all the way to Russia, but I have never heard of a Habsburg princess being married off to an Indian prince. You might have a number of noble systems in your world that fall along ethnic or cultural lines. It might be based on religion, but it might also overlap. You might have areas where old school nobility carries no weight at all. Well, that's our time. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything. You can recommend topics or call me names. Leave a like if you can. And if you're still listening, you probably don't hate my voice, so subscribe and you'll hear it some more. In the meantime, I hope you all have a brilliant rest of the day. Cheers.